Welcome back to another UNC Tar Heels football recruiting podcast here on TarHeelIllustrated.com. And if you are watching us on our rapidly growing YouTube channel, that is called Tar Heel Illustrated. I am THI publisher Andrew Jones, and joining me is our director of football recruiting, Miss Deana King. And Deana, big news for Carolina football. Things have not been great on the field this year, but they have been great off the field, particularly on the recruiting trail, as the class of 2022 just got even better with four-star wide receiver Andre Greene popping from Mack Brown, Lonnie Galloway, Phil Longo, and the Tar Heels. He is from St. Christopher's in Richmond, Virginia, 6'3", 180 pounds, the number 36 overall prospect in the nation, number 5 at his position, number 3 in the loaded Commonwealth of Virginia, 6.0 rivals ranking, which means they think he's going to be an NFL player one day. He chose Carolina over Clemson and Georgia. This is big time, and we have seen increasingly over the course of the year, Deana, this is a need. Back in the summer, we thought, hey, Andre Greene might be a luxury for this program. Right now, he is an absolute need. They picked him up. And I think if you look at all the incoming freshmen, he may have the best chance of getting on the field right away. So what are your thoughts? Andre Greene will be a Tar Heel.
Another big time pickup in the state of Virginia. I mean, you look at the state of Virginia, the top 10 kids in that state, and there's a very, very big Carolina blue tint to that list there. He knows a lot of those kids that have committed to UNC already. And I think that was a huge draw to him, because he knows those guys, people like Zach Rice, George Pettaway, Tayon Holloway, Bryson Jennings,
Sean Chapman,
all those guys. All those guys, they know each other. So, and like you said, we talked really early in the process and thought that wide receiver was at UNC was in good shape. And they, if they wanted to sign one, that you don't turn elite kids down if they want to come. And so it basically changed from, it would be nice to sign somebody to basically a priority. Yeah. And he has been to UNC several times. He was there for the cookout. Has come back. I believe he was just recently came down for the Duke game. Yeah. He did have 5 schools, and then he narrowed it down to 3 schools. And like you said, it was between Clemson, Georgia, and UNC. And we seen Carolina battle those 2 schools out to get Travis Shaw. Now they've got Andre Greene. And that's huge. That's huge on the recruiting front, to get the services of that guy against 2 of the big time programs like Clemson and Georgia.
When you look at that room, a lot of coaches sell early playing time, or they tell kids, well, you're going to play earlier. You're going to have a great chance to get on the field. And the kid's like, yeah, I want to go there. I would love to know how the conversations have changed with Andre Greene over the last couple of months, because everything that we know, and you talk to all these kids a lot, this staff doesn't sell them something that's not there. They're not going to tell a kid you're going to play right away or have a great chance to play right away. They tell them they're going to have an opportunity. Now, there are certain cases where, look, you have a really good chance of getting on the field early, like George Pettaway, okay? Perhaps even like Zach Rice. We don't know specifically if that's been told to him, but they have said you'll have an opportunity for sure. And his mom has said that. With Andre Greene, let's go back to August when Joffrey Brown was potentially a big breakout guy, when you had more guys in that room that people thought made that room a strength. Mack was even telling us several times, 2 years ago, nobody knew who Deana Brown and Daz Newsome were, and look at them. But it didn't work out. They've had attrition in that room. They've had a couple kids that were starters early hit the portal. And as that's happened, I would imagine the message to Andre Greene has changed. Plus, he's a smart guy. he can look on the field and say, okay, Antoine Green has stepped up here in recent weeks. That's really big for the program because Antoine will be back next year. Josh Downs will be back. It'll be his third year. He is what he is. We're seeing a little bit more of Justin Olsen, but who else is going to get in Andre Green's way? I think Andre Greene steps on the field in the spring, and he is a guy who gets a ton of reps, and he's going to be in that rotation fairly early on, and he'll have a chance to catch a lot of passes next year, Deana.
One thing that a lot of the kids, when we speak to them, they say this staff is genuine. They're upfront and honest. And if Mack Brown is sitting in your living room or takes a kid in his office and says he has a great opportunity to play, then, I mean, you got to take coach at his word. On this current team, there's been something missing in the receiving core. You know, they miss Bo Corrales really big, and not to compare Andre with Bo, but size-wise, yeah, they're both 6'4". Andre's just got ridiculous speed. He's just an absolute playmaker, and he would complement Josh Downs so much. Josh Downs knows how important Andre Greene is because he's basically recruiting him on social media and stuff. So, yeah, the opportunities to play there and to play under, the common theme is a Hall of Fame coach, and not too far from home, that his parents can make the trip right down 85 from Richmond down to Chapel Hill, and he can play with a bunch of his buddies that he's met at camps and combines or played against them during his time in high school ball in Virginia.
Yeah, well, rivals list him at 6'3", but I believe he is 6'4" now. He's grown since the last camp measuring is what they go by there. And yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, the size, because you and I talked before we recorded this, we were just talking about the size in the receiver room when there's not a lot of it, and how much they have missed Bo Corrales. And so people understand, we don't know the situation with Bo right now. He can actually play next year because everybody got last season back. He can get that year back, and this year could be a redshirt year because he played a little more than midway through his true freshman year, so he never actually had that redshirt year. So technically, Bo Corrales could be back next year, and I think if he can and wants to play and is healthy, I think Carolina would be wise to accept him back because he's a good player. He's a big player. He's a corner of the end zone guy. But Andre Greene could be that kind of guy too, but it would be a lot to expect a freshman, an 18/19-year-old to do those things right away. You'd rather ease him in. And if he could be behind a guy like Bo with Bo's work ethic when he's healthy, I think that would be a great way for him to sort of intern his way into having that role. And I would imagine he would get increasing reps as the season's gone on. We've seen J.J. Jones get on the field a little bit more here of late. I think we'll see more of him as Carolina plays out the rest of the season. They have 3 more games, including the bowl. They shouldn't lose to Wofford. It shouldn't be an issue. So they will go to a bowl. So I really like this pickup. That room needed a punch. The offensive line's gotten a pop with Zach Rice. Running back got a pop with Petaway. Defensive line got a pop with Shaw. You could look at all the other guys they brought in. A lot of different position groups have gotten a pop with the commitment. This room now has that with Andre Greene. Let's not forget Chapman. Chapman is recruited to play a wide receiver at Carolina, more of a slot guy. So a couple of pass catchers from the Commonwealth. But this guy is one that could really be big time by the end of his freshman year, certainly by his second year.
Well, you look at this recruiting class, I mean, you already got 2 5-star. Andre is basically borderline 5-star.
Yeah.
I mean, he's as high as you can go as 4-star. Top, what did you say, 32?
He's number 36 overall in the class.
Well, that's 3 players that Carolina has gotten committed in the top 40 players in the country. Yeah. And let's be honest, that's kind of unheard of for UNC football. So they're making some big time traction in the national scene, and certainly going against Clemson, Georgia, Notre Dame's, Alabama, Ohio State's of the world is getting a lot of attention, and it's just a big time get for the staff at Carolina. I mean, they're recruiting really well. Like you said, although things have not gone really like they had planned on the field, fans can look at this as it's a process. This whole thing is not going to turn overnight. And here we got Max, I believe, this is the class of 22 is his fourth recruiting class?
Yeah, fourth, but third full class.
Yeah, third, because we kind of give him a pass on that first. He did a remarkable job putting that first class in, keeping a lot of that together and bringing in Sam Howell and stuff. So it keeps getting better, the recruiting. And even though the number of this class, we're still kind of waiting to see about the numbers, but quality-wise, it's up there with top 5.
I also think it should be noted as well, and I know that Andre Greene didn't really consider Virginia Tech too much, but remember, it wasn't too long ago when kids from North Carolina were going to Blacksburg, and that's not even an issue right now. And what I mean is they're getting all the best kids from Virginia, many of the best kids from Virginia. Remember, Carolina fans used to, they built up a lot of angst toward the Hokies because of recruiting, not to mention losing to them on the field on a fairly regular basis. That has been, Carolina's swatted away the Virginia schools in recruiting up there. It's fascinating what Mack has been able to do. And he said he said his mission when we got him on signing day, his first signing day in February. It was, well, the second signing day, I guess it was. So we got him on the first one actually in December. He'd only had the job for like 3-4 weeks. And he said, our map is Washington, D.C. down to Atlanta. And we really want to do very well in Virginia. And when his teams were at their peak in the 90s, they had a lot of Virginia kids. You go back and look at Carolina's best teams in the 70s under Dick Crum and under Bill Dooley. They had tons of Virginia guys on the roster, a lot of, and not just Tidewater guys from around the state. And I think that's what's interesting about this, because think about it. Greene is from Richmond. Rice is from the Lynchburg area, which doesn't produce a lot of big time talent. Jennings is from the Richmond area. Greene is not from the Tidewater as well. And they're recruiting the DC area. They've offered a lot of kids in the DC area in the last few months, even suburban Maryland on the other side of DC. So I think it's very interesting to see that they basically consider that. And you've said it before, that the Tidewater area is sort of like North Carolina, but I think you could throw Richmond in there now too. Chapel Hill is less than 2 hours from Richmond. It's an easy drive. So kudos to the staff for identifying what they were going to do, and they have gone out and achieved that. We have told people so many times the last few months, disconnect what you see on the field from how the rest of the program is growing. This is more proof. And people are so concerned, they're going to lose kids. They're going to watch the team lose on TV and they're going to decommit. No, they're not losing these kids. It's solid. These kids know they're coming in and they're going to have a chance to take the program where Mack has said the program can go, needs to go, and will go. And those are his words. And I think getting a guy like Andre Greene is an enormous part of that, because you got to have a stud, potential stud at receiver, potential stud at running back, a stud blocking for him, a stud stopping stuff on the other side of the line of scrimmage, quarterback situations in really good shape. You know, they're checking a lot of boxes on the trail, but this one here is big. It's really fascinating, Deana, how this went from a luxury to an absolute need. I think that's really fascinating.
Transfer portals changed a lot of football coaches' thinking and everything. So
kids got to produce, and that's
and it makes it easier for kids to, if they want to change, they can do a change, and it can happen suddenly, and it can change a football coach and program's total plan about recruiting. I mean, we thought Carolina wouldn't take maybe 15, 16 kids to start. Now it's creeped up to possibly 18 and 19. Who knows? I mean, it's Mack's decision on what he wants to go. If he wants to enter the portal for some, kids,
they will.
But he's at least got some options now, and he's not. He's learned from kind of last year or the year, not the year before, with the Temple guy, Roche, you know, they would have probably loved to have him, but they didn't have a spot. So you live and learn.
You live and learn. And let's also be clear that Andre Greene didn't become a major priority because of the portal. The way that Chaffrey and Emery Simmons were struggling early on made it very, very real, very apparent that they started prioritizing him even more at some point in September.
Well, Carolina didn't offer many wide receivers. I mean, they kind of didn't really recruit. The state North Carolina, you know, they kind of was looking at Shalik Knox, and a lot of people thought Knox was basically a Carolina lock, but they just, you know, they zoned in on Andre, and they've made him the priority. You know, there's no other wide receiver out there that they're prioritizing. They did a little
sniffing around. I think, you know, Wesley Adam Freeman had a little thing about Wesley Grimes, but
you know, we'll see, you know, what happens there. I mean, he's a Wake commit who came to the Wake Carolina game on their own dime, not as a recruit or anything. They just came to watch the game because he's a local kid. So something just to keep an eye on.
Yeah, something to keep an eye on. But anyway, they do have Andre Greene. This is a loaded, star-studded class. We can call them the future Star Heels. Don't do that. They're just high school kids. They're just high school kids still. But there is star power in this class. And it all changes when they show up because rankings don't matter once they show up. But it's a lot better to bring in kids like this and see if they work out than to not get them. And this is a huge pickup for Carolina. Andre Greene, a borderline 5-star wide receiver from Richmond, Virginia, the number 36 overall prospect in the class nationally, number 5 at his position, number 3 in the big-time loaded state of Virginia, 6.0 Rivals ranking, which means Rivals identifies him as a future NFL player. And he picked Carolina over Clemson and Georgia. This is all big-time stuff. All the big-time boxes you want with a fat check mark right next to him. Carolina just got that with Andre Greene. She is Deana King. I am Andrew Jones. We very much appreciate you stopping by.